Saturday night sees the UFC break new ground in Baku, Azerbaijan, and headlining the fight card is RDX Sports' very own Khalil Rountree Jr.
What's up, guys? If you're following me, you already know who I am, so no need to say. If not, I'm Khalil Rountree, UFC light heavyweight, and I just want to make the announcement that I've chosen to partner with RDX for all of my equipment. Thank you to RDX, and I want to say the reason why I partner with RDX over any other brand is number one, accessibility. It's very easy to access. If you're a beginner and you need good quality equipment, I would go RDX. I thought that this was very exciting, especially for someone like me in the beginning of my career, in the beginning of my martial arts journey. I really didn't know which gear to buy, what was good quality, and I didn't want to get gear from, a Walmart or something like that. So I would say RDX would be the way to go. It feels really good. I'm very happy, and I just want to let you know, if you're a beginner, I'm now partnered with them and fully endorsing this product.
That's right, the UFC heads to Baku this week for UFC Fight Night in Azerbaijan. The first time the UFC have ever been to the country of Azerbaijan, and the Crystal Hall Arena will play host to a huge fight night card with a light heavyweight clash in the main event between former UFC light heavyweight champion Jamahal Sweet Dreams Hill and RDX Sports' very own Khalil Rountree Jr. Leading into fight night in Baku, it was announced this past week that Khalil has joined the RDX Sports family, and what a perfect athlete to join the RDX Sports family just as he's about to get in the cage for a huge fight there in Baku. Khalil's career and life journey is an inspiring one, a remarkable one, as he's gone through and beaten incredible adversity to become one of the very best light heavyweight fighters on the planet. The last time we saw him in the octagon, of course, he was challenging for UFC Championship gold against the great Alex Pereira. It didn't go Khalil's way on that night, but he came out of that fight with a huge amount of respect, with a huge amount of credibility, and with the world knowing that this is a man who is prepared to go right to the ends of the earth to be the best in the world. He didn't quite get the job done against Pereira in that matchup, but his career is far from over. He's gone back to the drawing board. He's tweaked his training camp. He's made some improvements, and he's back on Saturday night in Baku in the 5-round light heavyweight main event against a former world champion. And if he gets the job done this weekend, he's going to be right back in there with a shot of the UFC light heavyweight title once again. Khalil Rountree Jr.'s journey to the UFC was marked with personal tragedy and then transformation. His father, who used to be a tour manager for the great R&B group Boys to Men, was tragically murdered in 1992, and it certainly affected a young Khalil as he was looking to go through his formative years in the wake of that unspeakable tragedy that happened so young in his life. He ended up growing up and being over 300 pounds and not really having that much direction in his life at the time. But then he discovered combat sports, really invested his time and his effort into becoming a combat sports athlete. And it's completely transformed his physique. It's completely transformed his own mental well-being. And now, as part of the UFC, having gone through the Ultimate Fighter, and tested himself against a host of up-and-coming prospects in the Ultimate Fighter, he eventually found himself in the Ultimate Fighter finale. He lost the finale to Andrew Sanchez, but he still made it into the UFC. Having got to the UFC, he's been learning on the job all the way through. He's taken some losses along the way, but most notably, he's been picking up big, impressive stoppage victories. An absolute savage in the stand-up game, nasty Muay Thai striking, one of the best exponents of Muay Thai striking in the UFC light heavyweight division. He worked his way into the top 10, and last time out earned a shot at Alex Poatan Pereira, who at the time was the UFC undisputed light heavyweight champion. Few people even had the cojones to stand and throw strikes with Alex Pereira in the UFC. Khalil Rountree Absolutely did. And he went toe-to-toe with him and even rocked Pereira at one point in that fight. But as the fight went on, Pereira's experience in that realm, experience at world championship level, proved to be the difference maker, and he eventually got the victory. But Khalil has since gone back to the drawing board. He's tweaked his training camp. He's been working his grappling with the likes of Marcos Buchecha, one of the great grapplers in the world, to try and round out his skill set. He's been working with some of the best striking coaches on the planet to try and sharpen and hone those stand-up striking tools that he already possessed, all the while working with Coach John Wood at Syndicate MMA, his longtime head coach there in Las Vegas. He was working in Thailand, training out in Thailand for a while. But for this one, he's been back in Vegas at Syndicate with John Wood and working incredibly hard to round out his game. And on Saturday, he takes on Jamahal Hill, who a former world champion in the UFC, someone who himself is looking to take himself back to the top of the UFC's 205-pound division. It should be an absolutely brilliant matchup as Khalil looks to continue his MMA career all the way to the very top at 205 pounds.
If someone were to ask me what martial arts brought to my life, the first thing I would say is peace. Before martial arts, I would describe myself as an angry person. I had no outlet for my anger or for my emotions. There was an intensity that I was able to let out, especially when it comes to doing things like hitting the bag and learning Muay Thai. After training, there was no way that I could be mad anymore or be angry because I was just so happy, and it just brought me this sense of calmness and this sense of peace. So martial arts has brought a lot of things in my life full circle, from healthy lifestyle, healthy relationships, confident in my abilities, not only to fight, but in many other areas, and just this sense of peace and calmness that I can rest easy.
Khalil's UFC career so far has seen a number of highlights. First, The Ultimate Fighter Season 23, made it to the finale, took on Andrew Sanchez in what was his UFC debut, lost that fight by unanimous decision, but then in February 2017 picked up his very first UFC win with a first-round knockout of Daniel Jolly. And then in UFC 226 in July 2018, a huge fight card in Las Vegas, he picked up the Performance of the Night bonus with a stunning first-round KO of K1 kickboxing legend Gokhan Saki. Many people thought that going into that fight, he would be mad to stand toe-to-toe with a savage like Gokhan Saki. Well, he did, and he finished him. Absolutely made a statement in that fight. He faced Johnny Walker, got beat by Johnny Walker, and then went to Thailand, as I mentioned earlier, where he really worked hard on refining those Muay Thai striking skills. And then in 2019, he came back and showed just how much he'd improved those striking skills with a comprehensive decision victory over Eric Anders, one of the most durable men in the division. But his list of accomplishments at light heavyweight is pretty extensive. He's defeated former light heavyweight title challenger Anthony Lionheart Smith by TKO back in December 2023. He finished former Cage Fury Fighting Championship heavyweight champion Chris Daukaus by first-round TKO in August 2023. He defeats another noted kickboxer in Dustin Jacoby, outpointed him by split decision in a real war back in October 2022. He's got a second-round knockout of heavy-handed Carl Roberson in March 2022. And then, of course, he's been in there with the best of the best. He's been in there with Alex Poatan Pereira and pushed him to the limit in those early rounds before eventually losing via fourth round TKO. But he come out of that fight with so much respect for his fighting heart, his tenacity, and his never say die spirit against one of the very best to ever do it at 205 pounds. For those of you who aren't that familiar with Khalil Rountree, he's known for his explosive striking and knockout power. He stands in front of you. He's got deadly Muay Thai kickboxing, really dangerous, powerful kicks, very dangerous punches and elbows, especially up close with those short elbows. southpaw as well, which makes him even trickier to deal with. Big and strong and powerful. He can lean on wrestling if he needs to, but he prefers to stand and bang. But the main thing with Khalil Rountree is just he will go in there and have a tear up with you. He will happily stand and throw strikes and test his power against your power. It's one of the reasons why he's one of the more crowd-pleasing fighters at 205 pounds. Throw in the backstory that he has, the fact that he's been through some real adversity early in his career, the fact he's managed to transform his life, his body, and his mindset to the point that he's now one of the elite athletes at 205 pounds in the combat sports world. It's just testament to what you can achieve with the right approach and the right mindset and a determination to get better and to just move on and do your best with what life has dealt you. And all respect to Khalil Rountree, who's nicknamed the Warhorse, seems particularly apt, right? He's gone through the trials and tribulations inside and outside the cage, but he's still going, and he's still right there at the top of the sport. And fans will be treated to an absolute banger of a main event, I'm sure, when he gets in there with Jamahal Hill himself, a noted striker who loves to go in there and try and knock people out. I can't see how this isn't going to be an absolute stand-up war in Baku on Saturday night.
It's like the beginning of the fight week, and I think it's definitely a mental shift. All of the excitement of arriving here in Baku is kind of, simmering down a bit, and it's now time to lock in and get focused on the whole reason why we're here. So I think after tonight's sleep, wake up in the morning and I think it's time to go kill mode.
And here at RDX, the whole team are obviously looking forward to seeing how Khalil does, wishing him all the best as he steps in there to compete on Saturday night. Choosing him as one of the brand ambassadors for RDX Sports, bit of a no-brainer, really, given everything we've just said and everything that he's brought into his life and his career. He's an inspirational figure, and I think someone who is authentic. He's not putting on an act for anybody. He's not trying to be something he isn't. He's just authentically himself, and he's got a real story of success, whether it be through personal growth, whether it be through overcoming adversity, or whether it just be through his combat sports career, coming in as a prospect, working his way through the regional scene into the Ultimate Fighter, going through the trials and tribulations of being in the Ultimate Fighter house, making it through adversity in the Ultimate Fighter house, eventually getting to the final, losing in the final, still getting into the UFC, and then building his way up to world championship caliber on the sport's biggest stage. It's an inspiring journey, an inspiring story, and he'll be doing so as a brand representative and a brand ambassador for RDX Sports. You'll see him training in the lead up to fights. He'll be having the RDX Sports gloves. You'll be able to see those beautiful RDX Sports gloves as he's in there doing his pad work and getting ready for fight night. But an inspiring character, a great fighter, and someone who, when he steps in the octagon every time, he's must-see TV. Big, strong, powerful, knockout power, and a classy individual. It's a very easy man to follow and to support in his martial arts journey. And we're looking forward to seeing how Khalil Rountree Jr., the Warhorse, gets on when he steps into the octagon in Baku in the main event on Saturday night, where he takes on former champion Jamahal Sweet Dreams Hill. All right, before we leave you, let's just run through that fight card for UFC Baku. Some good fights on that card. Should be a great crowd, by the way, in Baku, Azerbaijan. They love their mixed martial arts in that part of the world. They've been crying out for a big UFC show for quite some time, and now they've got one, and they've got a local hero on the card who we will mention in a moment's time. But let's start from the bottom of the card and work our way up. Heavyweights kicking off the night. Egypt's Hamdi Abdel Wahab taking on Mohammed Usman. Mohammed Usman, obviously the brother of Kamaru Usman. He had a huge win at UFC Atlanta last weekend. Can Muhammad make it 2 for 2 for the Usman family in back-to-back weeks? We will find out in the first fight of the night. You can catch that on UFC Fight Pass here in the UK. Following that, at flyweight, Tagir Ulanbekov taking on Azat Maxim from Kazakhstan. Tagir looks like a real prospect at 125 pounds. I think he's ranked 12th right now in the UFC 125 pound division. Not a million miles away from being able to put himself in the title mix at flyweight. Gets a big win against Maxim this weekend. He can move on and look to take on some of the division's elite towards the end of this year. But interesting fight at 125. At women's bantamweight, we've got Irina Alexeyeva against Claudia Sigula. Russia taking on Poland at 135 pounds. Alexeyeva, a sizable favourite in that one. Daria Zheleznyakova taking on England's own Melissa Mullins. This is actually a rematch of a fight in Aries FC when Melissa Mullins defeated Daria Zheleznyakova and then earned a place in the UFC off the back of that. Well, Zheleznyakova has since earned her spot in the UFC as well, and they've given her Melissa Mullins in a rematch. Mullins, 2-1 so far in the UFC, has a brand new 4-fight UFC contract in her back pocket. This will be the first of those 4 fights, and she's got a rematch. That'll be an interesting one to watch. Mullins, a decent-sized favourite for that one at 135 pounds. At middleweight, Ismail Nadeyev, who's now flying the flag of Morocco, used to be known as the Austrian Wonder Boy, now flying the flag of Morocco, taking on Jun Young Park, the Iron Turtle from South Korea. That's a sleeper for fight of the night. Keep your eyes on that fight. That could be a lot of fun. Park is the favourite leading into that one. And the featured prelim should be an absolute banger. Seo-hyun Ko versus the Welsh gangster, Oban Elliott, at 170 pounds. Should be a great one. Oban Elliott is always must-see TV whenever he's on, whether he's doing a YouTube video, whether he's doing an interview, or whether he's in the cage fighting. That will be a great fight in the welterweight division, and that will lead things in nicely to the main card. At UFC Baku, Mohamed Naimov of Tajikistan taking on Bogdan Grad of Austria at featherweight. Naimov, the betting favourite heading into that one. Bogdan Grad coming through the Contender Series. Naimov from Tajikistan, minus 225 favourite heading into that one. Lightweight bouts, Nazim Sadikov of Azerbaijan, one of their local stars, a big favourite to defeat Brazil's Nicolas Motta, who is decent value, I think, at plus 310. But Sadikov is going to be roared to the rafters by a huge crowd. Expects a huge reception for him as he goes for it at 155 pounds. Also at 155 pounds, and also from Azerbaijan, probably their most famous MMA fighter, or their most successful in recent times at least, Tafik Musayev, former Rising Lightweight Grand Prix champion, taking on Mikbek Oralbay of Kyrgyzstan. This is another one of those fights that could potentially be a fight of the night contender. Musayev could be a real problem at 155 pounds. If he can get some form together and start stacking some wins, he could be a real problem. He certainly proved it in Japan. Struggled to get fights after winning the tournament. I think people didn't know that much about him, and when they found out, no one really wanted anything to do with him. So now he's in the UFC. We will see how he goes. He will certainly get opportunity to do the business at 155 pounds. At heavyweight, we have the return of Curtis Blaydes against the long-awaited debutant Rizvan Kuniev. Kuniev has been signed to the UFC for a while now, having come through Contender Series, former PFL fighter. He was due to face Curtis Blaydes back in February of 2025. That bout got pushed back to UFC 313 in March. Blaydes was then taken ill, and the fight was unable to take place at that event. Now it's been rescheduled again, and it's taking place this weekend in Baku. Should be a great fight and a real barometer for just where Kuniev stands in the heavyweight division. A lot of people are quite high on this guy, but where will he sit in the heavyweight pecking order? If you can beat Curtis Blaydes, you're a contender. If you can't beat Curtis Blaydes, then the jury is still going to be out on you as a real threat at 265 pounds. But we shall see. This should be a big one. Curtis Blaydes, of course, looking to bounce back. We haven't seen him since he lost to Tom Aspinall at UFC 304, which was a way back. This was back in the summer of 2024. He's not been back since. He's had those 2 fights cancelled with Kuniev. Obviously, it's one booking, but it's been booked, cancelled, booked again, cancelled. Now they've got it this weekend. Kuniev hasn't fought for a while either. He hasn't fought since the Contender Series back in August of 2024. So they've both been out for pretty much the same amount of time, just Blades 1 month prior. But yeah, they're both going to be itching to get back in there and make a statement in this heavyweight division, which, as we know, is absolutely wide open right now. We have no idea. We have two champions. We have no idea which one is the legitimate champion. We have John Jones, the undisputed champion. We have Tom Aspinall, who wants to fight for the undisputed belt, but there is a lot to be dealt with before anything is sorted on that. Dana White, actually, yesterday, I think he was on Jim Rome, said they hope to have some answers in the next couple of weeks, and that if Jones does not want to fight Tom Aspinall, they plan on moving on very quickly. So we shall see. Sounds to me like they've given John Jones a deadline to put pen to paper, but we shall see. We shall see. But realistically, this is a fight to get yourself into position in a heavyweight division where there's only a couple of contenders at the very top. If you beat Curtis Blades, then you're right up there. So we shall see how it goes for Rizvan Kuniev of Russia as he takes on Curtis Blades. As you might expect for a seasoned UFC heavyweight contender versus a new prospect, Blades is the betting favourite for this fight, but I know some people are quite high on Kuniev. So we shall see how that one goes. That leads us in nicely to the co-main event of the evening. Rafael Fiziev of Azerbaijan taking on Ignacio Bahamondes. Oh my goodness gracious me, ladies and gentlemen. This is a matchup. This is a fight to savour. You take a look at Fiziev's form, it ain't great, right? He's lost his last three, all three of them in absolute wars. He loses a majority decision to Justin Gaethje in London at UFC 286. I was at that fight. It was a phenomenal fight. He then loses a TKO to Matthias Gamrot after sustaining a leg injury. And then he rematches Gaethje at UFC 313 and goes to a unanimous decision in that one and lost out on the scorecards again. Both those fights with Gaethje were fight of the night performances. So you know what you're going to get with Rafael Fiziev. He goes in there, he throws strikes. He's a dangerous man and he's a lot of fun to watch. Sounds a lot like the guy he's facing this weekend, Ignacio Bahamondes, although he, rather than losing three in a row, he's coming into this on a 3-fight win streak. He knocks out Christos Giagos via first-round head kick back in April last year, earns himself 50 Gs for a performance of the night bonus. Then he takes on Manuel Torres and defeats him via first-round TKO stoppage at UFC 306. Again, earns himself $50,000 performance of the night bonus. And then in his most recent appearance at UFC 313 against Jalen Turner, the Tarantula, he gets a third straight first round finish, this time by triangle choke submission on a pay-per-view, earns another $50,000 performance of the night bonus. You see the pattern we're forming here? 3 wins, 3 finishes, all in the first round, all earning 50 Gs a pop. This man is a bonus machine. He's a finishing machine, and do not blink because he likes to get the job done early. Against Rafael Fiziev, this is going to be a phenomenal fight. And with Fiziev fighting on home soil, it just adds a little more spice to the pot. It should be a fantastic co-main event there in Baku on Saturday night. And then, of course, we have the main event. Jamahal Hill, 12-3, former world champion. Khalil Rountree Jr., 13-6, former world title challenger, going head-to-head in a bid to get themselves as close to championship contention as they possibly can there in Baku, Azerbaijan. The light heavyweight division, there's a lot going on right now. Is Alex Pereira coming back for the belt? We've got Magomed Ankalaev currently occupying the top spot with gold over his shoulder. Maybe a big performance for the winner here can put themselves right in there in the championship conversation. So this should be a fascinating one. Will it be the former champ, Jamahal Hill? Will it be the former title challenger and the RDX Sports brand ambassador, Khalil Rountree Jr.? It's going to be a lot of fun watching on Saturday night at UFC Baku, which will, thankfully for all of us on this side of the pond, take place at a really palatable time. Let's pull up UFC.com and give you those times on Saturday, 8 p.m. The main card will kick off 8 p.m. in the UK, TNT Sports for that main card. The prelims will be on UFC Fight Pass from 5 p.m. Tea time fights in the UK. Who'd have thunk it? This would be a lot of fun, and it will be played out in front of a crowd of passionate MMA fans. We see lots of events at the UFC Apex, but we love it when the UFC's on the road and when they go to a new market where fans have been desperate to see this thing for so long. And they've also got some local stars on the card ready to do some big things in the octagon. I don't see how this isn't going to be a really entertaining night of fights at the Crystal Hall, which once played host to the Eurovision Song Contest. But rather than some cheesy songs, we're going to see some chin music going on in the octagon at the Crystal Hall in Baku on Saturday night. It should be a great night of fights. That's just about all we've got time for on the RDX Sports podcast this week. Should be a great night of fights from Baku, Azerbaijan this weekend, as RDX Sports own Khalil Rountree goes for glory in the main event. Be sure to check out that main event and the whole fight card. I mean, it might not be packed with the biggest A-list names, but there should be some absolutely brilliant fights through the course of the night, especially when we see the local stars from Azerbaijan in the cage. The crowd are going to be absolutely wild on Saturday night, and it's going to be great to see it at a decent time for once in a while. So that'll be good too. Next week is UFC International Fight Week. 2 huge title fights from Las Vegas at UFC 317. We got Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira for the vacant, undisputed UFC lightweight title. And we've got the undisputed flyweight champ Alexandre Pantoja taking on Kai Kara-France for the undisputed 125-pound title. They top a stacked fight card in Vegas. It's International Fight Week, so there's a whole load of stuff going on during the week over there in Sin City. UFC X, the huge UFC Expo taking place at the Las Vegas Convention Center. Power Slap will be on the Friday. There's the first ever UFC BJJ event taking place, I think, on the Wednesday, maybe on the Thursday. There's also a Canelo Crawford press conference taking place in Vegas as part of this huge week of combat sports in Las Vegas next weekend. We will do you a preview pod before I fly out there next week, and when I get back, we'll recap it all on the RDX Sports podcast as well. Should be a busy time. It should be a busy time. But for now, enjoy the fights this weekend. Got loads of great fights coming up from Baku this weekend. Follow us on the socials at RDX Sports on X, at RDX_sports on Instagram and Threads. And if you chuck me a follow as well, that would be much appreciated. I'm at Simon Head Sport across all social media platforms. And finally, and most importantly, give us a like and give us a subscribe right here on the RDX Sports YouTube channel. This is the home of the RDX Sports podcast. It's also the home of everything else related to RDX Sports, whether it be new product launches, whether it be behind the scenes videos, stuff to do with our new ambassador, Mr. Rountree Jr., who of course is in action this weekend. Loads going on at RDX Sports. Be sure to join us. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Never miss a thing. Subscribe to the socials and make sure you're a part of everything we're doing moving forward. It's a good time to be a combat sports fan. We've got a lot of stuff coming this summer, starting with UFC Baku this weekend and UFC International Fight Week next week. And we'll be there for it all. Enjoy the fights this weekend, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll speak to you next week.